Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this tutorial that is entitled Who Am I? So, bouncing off of your BLT sandwich activity that you did, now it's time to get a little creative, right? So, this activity allows you to make a composite image, just sort of like the BLT sandwich you did there, in a way that says something about your personality, and what makes you different, and what are your interests, and what are your beliefs, and what do you want to pursue in your lifetime here on Earth as you are right now. So I have a copy of the image that you see on your web page. So this is actually student work, and it's originally this was called the Who Am I desktop. So I didn't like to use the word desktop because that sounds like it's something that's work. But this is really just play, and it's self-identity, and it allows you to validate who you are as an individual. So this is student work, like I said, and as you can see, there's a surface. In this case, there's a wooden surface, wooden planks, and then with a bunch of stuff just placed on top of it. That's basically what the desktop is. It's a surface, and then you're going to be placing things on that surface and arranging them how you think might look cool for you. So, of course, in this example here, we have all kinds of stuff here. It looks like there is a couple of pamphlets that have to do with stories. So I think this person likes theater because we have a little screenshot of a theater scene. We have a keyboard, of course, so maybe there's music that this student is into. Got a ukulele, maybe a drawing tablet, all kinds of stuff here that has to do with aspects of this student's personality. You get a chance to make yours your way. So I'm going to give you a little demo on how to get started. In this case, I'm going to be using Photoshop. So I'm going to minimize out of here. Now, I've already begun to stick some things on my desktop. And you might be looking at this and you're like, wait a second, that doesn't look like a desk, Mr. Sco. That's not wood. Well, guess what? You get to use any sort of surface that you darn well please. And you're going to place it on the bottom layer, right? Just sort of like I did. So as you can see here, I have a background image layer, which is locked. I locked it on purpose so I don't accidentally move it. And then I'm beginning to just stick things on top of it, each on a new layer. So we do that, of course, so we can move things around, size it, rotate it, colorize it, whatever we want. I only have a couple of things here so far, but I got a lot more to do. And I'll show you that in a second. So I have a motorcycle here because that's one of my pastimes is to ride motorcycles, and that actually is the same model as my bike. I have a tent here because I love to go camping and I love to backpack and stuff, so I'm very outdoorsy. And if you can see here, as I make this bigger, this came from an image of a tent that was already set up in a scene. So I'm trying to remove that background. And of course, you guys learned how to do that before by using the eraser tool. So as I continue to erase it, I'll get it the way I want it to look, rather. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the move tool and shrink this down. All kinds of details that I could show you, but I'm going to go pretty fast here so you guys can get going. Now, whenever you make a transformation in Photoshop, you do need to confirm your transformation by clicking on the checkbox there. Okay, so what I've done, what I want to show you is my project folder. Now, before you even open up Photoshop, you should make a project folder inside of your OneDrive. So I made a new folder called Who Am I? There it is, nice and big so you can see it. And I placed all of the little images that I have downloaded from the internet inside there. Okay, so if I double click on that, look at all this stuff here. Now, I don't know if I'm going to use all of these. I might not like some of them, but I'm going to, try. And I've got all kinds of stuff here. Okay, I've got a backpacker. I have an image of a bass guitar because I also play music, and that's my instrument. A little EDM symbol there that I found because I'm totally into dance music too. Education. I'm into growing vegetables in my garden. I'm a coffee fanatic, so I got that too. And of course, you've seen these, and I got some other extra things too. Okay, so how do you import a whole bunch of different things onto your Photoshop canvas? Well, once it's the same ways you did before, but since I showed you in Pixlr before, I'm just going to simply click on the plus sign here, and it gives you a brand new blank layer. Okay, in order to import an image, you have to tell Photoshop to do that separately. So I'm going to go to the File menu, and I'm going to choose something called Place Embedded. So I want you to use Place Embedded for this project. Basically, what that means is that it's telling Photoshop to grab the image, stick it on a new layer, and make that image part of your Photoshop file. Basically, that what means is if you copy your Photoshop file someplace else, it takes all of those image elements and all those layers with the photos with it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and choose Place Embedded, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my Who Am I activity. There it is. Okay, so I'm going to place something new here. I'm going to choose the coffee image here. Now, does it have to look like a realistic desktop? No, it doesn't have to. I mean, it was kind of meant to be that way, but you don't have to do that. It can just be a collage and make it fun however you want it to. Okay, so I have my coffee image here. Look how big it is. Well, I'm going to want to shrink it down a bit. Now, I would, if I were you, leave it a little on the big side because then if you want to make it bigger later or smaller, it's a little easier to do that. Okay, so once I got it roughly sized the way I want it, I'm going to hit the check mark, and voila, I have a new layer with my coffee. Now, remember how we talked about erasing the background? This is going to be a little bit different because it's not a white background. So I can use a different tool. Before I even do any of that, I want you to notice something with your layer. Notice how this new layer with my coffee has got a little weird symbol on here. Now that little weird symbol means that this new layer that I've made is something called a smart object. You don't need to know much about that in this class, but basically Photoshop did some cool stuff so you can do all these manipulations to your layer without really affecting the pixels. You know, we don't want to worry about all of that stuff right now. We just want to make something cool, right? So we want to do one additional step, and that's called rasterizing the layer. So I'm going to right-click on the layer and choose Rasterize. This turns my layer into actual pixels. All right. So remember how we used the eraser tool and the magic wand tool before? I could use the eraser and get rid of this background if I wanted to, but there is a smarter way. If you find the magic wand tool, you're going to notice that there's something called the object selection tool and also something called the quick selection tool here as well. Now the quick selection tool lets you click and drag an area, sort of like the magic wand, but it kind of intelligently guesses what you're trying to select by what you mouse over and what you click and drag. So I'm going to click on a new selection. I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger. I'm going to pull down the hardness a little bit and then click over here. Oops. Deselect that. So I'm going to just go where it's brown and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag. Notice what happened there? So Photoshop said, you got a bunch of brown pixels. Maybe you want more of those selected and maybe you don't want this white cup selected. It made a guess and it was right this time. I still want to add to this. So I'm going to make sure that my plus sign selected here and I'm going to go all the way across and it did a pretty good job. Now, but it kind of screwed up around here though. If I hit the delete key, and I'll go ahead and do that, and I'm going to make this bigger so you can see it better. It actually deleted a little part of my handle there. I didn't want that. So I'm going to hit Control Z to get my background back. I do want to keep this portion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my brush a little smaller, and I'm going to go and I'm going to choose the minus sign for my quick selection tool. That means don't select this part. So I'm going to make it a little smaller, and I'm just going to brush over the area that I want to keep. That's good enough. All right. Now I also want to keep this rim of this coffee cup here. So, oops. There we go. So it's not doing a very good job, huh? So there are things that you can do to make it more accurate. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it like this, and then I'll just use the eraser tool for the rest of it. I want to keep this part of my saucer as well. So it's a little too aggressive. Okay, so now I'm going to just go ahead and hit the delete key, and then I'm going to deselect the way I showed you before, select and then deselect. And then I'm going to just grab my eraser and do a little touch up. So this is way too big, so I'm going to go ahead and smaller and go around. I think you guys get the picture. So now I'm doing the hole where the coffee mug is and get around there. All right, I'm going to back up a little bit by hitting Control minus. And of course, you guys know that I can move this around. I can rotate it. I can colorize it. I can do anything I want to. So your goal is to place all of the images that you want, and you need a minimum of 12 for this. Then you're going to think about layout. Layout is something that I want to describe to you in class personally, but that means how do I organize all these things on my desktop so it looks cool? Do I just want to make it look like a mess? Well, no, you want it to make it look a little bit more like it has some sort of thought put into it. So with this, as you can see, these aren't just all these elements that are separate aren't just dumped on here, are they? There's some thought put into it. How do you make it organized? Well, this student made the keyboard bigger with the flag behind it, made these smaller, made the teacup and the bookmark even teenier, and placed this ukulele so it's coming in at an angle so it fills up that space. Think about laying out something that looks, interesting and fun, but somewhat organized. Okay, guys, once you're finished, you're going to save your Photoshop file. And in this case, instead of doing a PSD, you're going to just hit save and apply this. And you'll get a dialog box that shows up. I'm not, because I already saved this before. So I'm going to choose save as. You're always going to choose save on your computer, browse to your folder, okay, your Who Am I folder, and make sure it's a Photoshop file. Make sure it says that. Okay, guys, have fun with this. Make this really cool. Of course, you can colorize and do all kinds of stuff as you please. All right, have fun, and I will talk to you soon.